Welcome to Righting Wrongs, the podcast from Hudgell Solicitors that brings you expert insight into current legal matters. Today, we're joined by Senior Associate Solicitor Caroline Murgatroyd to discuss the findings of a recent independent review into Great Ormond Street Hospital. That revealed that orthopaedic surgeon Dr Yaser Jabbar harmed 94 children in procedures carried out between 2017 and 2022. 36 of those children were severely harmed, with consequences including post-surgery fractures, pain, and in some cases, amputation. Caroline, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Firstly, could you summarise for us what the recently published report found?
So the report looked into all the children that were treated by Mr Jabbar. That number was extended from 721 children to 789 children, and it found that 12% of those children had come to harm. And what it found was that those children that had been treated surgically by Mr Jabbar were more likely to have sustained harm. In fact, 27% of his surgical patients were injured. And as you've noted, 36 children suffered severe harm. And what the report found was there was just multiple failures across the board in respect to the treatment that they'd received, right from the first appointment with him up until the point of their surgery and post-operatively. So it's raised really serious concerns about the harm that was sustained by these children.
What kind of failures are we talking about specifically? What kind of things were happening?
So the failures start from the initial appointment. So the advice that was given in respect of the treatment options, the failure to discuss these children with colleagues. You would expect to have a multidisciplinary approach, and that didn't happen in many of the children that were seen. There was a failure to discuss the risks of the treatment, and therefore informed consent wasn't obtained. And then when the surgery was performed, it was performed poorly. And then when children sustained post-operative complications, they weren't diagnosed and they weren't treated urgently as they should have been.
Now, you're currently representing a large number of clients. What kind of issues are you seeing coming up repeatedly in these cases?
So the issues we're looking at in terms are the type of harm that was sustained to the children. So we're looking at amputation, nerve injuries, incorrect surgeries performed, leg length discrepancies, pressure sores. So there's a wide variety of injuries that we're seeing these children have suffered.
Now, your clients will have been privy to the investigation findings. How have they responded?
So the families I've spoken to and the children, some of whom are now adults, they have ongoing concerns about the detail that was provided within the report, particularly about transparency and accountability. Now, the report notes that this was generated after concerns were raised in 2022. And it also refers to a serious incident having raised in 2021. But what it doesn't really address is what the staff were saying at any point in time between 2017 and 2022. So the families, the children that I've spoken to are really concerned that they don't have a clear timeline of who knew what and when. And then in respect of accountability, the report rightly focuses on the surgeon, Mr Jabbar. But of course, he didn't work in isolation. He worked within a structure, governance, oversight, and the families feel that that hasn't been dealt with properly in the report.
How are Hudgells and you individually supporting those people who have been affected?
So the report includes an apology to the children that were harmed. But in terms of bringing a medical negligence claim, this report and the reviews that they've had are not admissions of liability. So what we need to do is investigate them fully as clinical negligence claims. So we are obtaining the records, we are obtaining independent expert opinion to very carefully go through all the records. These reviews that have been undertaken by Great Ormond Street Hospital were largely based upon the medical records and didn't really seek input from the patients and their families, and that's what we can do as part of the claim. And then ultimately is putting those allegations to Great Ormond Street Hospital and inviting them to admit liability for the harm that's been caused to these children.
How did you expect Great Ormond Street to deal with these cases?
So we've already had the reviews that have identified that a number of these children have suffered very significant injuries. So what we want to see is prompt admissions of liability and interim payments of compensation to these children, because they are entitled to be compensated for the very serious harm that they've suffered.
Caroline, thank you so much. That's been extremely useful. For more information on the developing situation around Great Ormond Street and the concerns around Yaser Jabbar, visit our website, hudgellsolicitors.co.uk. Thanks for watching. Join us again soon for the next edition of Righting Wrongs.